Brad Biggs is the football man of the Chicago Tribune, a longtime contributor to the station and a valued friend. And he joins us on the Signature Bank Score Hotline. Signature Bank, making commercial banking personal. Big Z!
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, I got to tell you, it's the damnedest thing. People are seemingly happy with the moral victory, if that makes any sense. It's a moral victory Monday here on the Score because everybody seems to be pleased that Justin Fields played as well as he did, regardless of whether they won.
Well, unfortunately, the trophy they give out for the Moral Victory Bowl isn't very charming or attractive. But, you know, the way this game started yesterday, where they were getting just completely dominated, they were down 21-3 right away. They hadn't even thought about stopping the Vikings, and they had put together the one field goal drive. You're looking at it, and you're saying, "Oh boy, this could be, you know, one of those games where the score, you know, sticks out in your mind for years to come." Right? It looked like the Vikings were going to run away with a laugher, but the Bears kind of found their feet somehow on defense, and I can't believe I'm saying that after, you know, what we watched for the first three possessions, and then they battled on offense, and Fields played better. Was he great? No. Has he arrived? No. But he was better. He played turnover-free ball. He was a lot better on first and second down. I think we talked about it last week, guys. Through the first four games, Justin Fields was completing 42% of pass attempts on first and second down, which is unheard of. Yesterday, he was 12 of 15 throwing the ball on first and second down, and he finished 15 of 21 overall. You've got the one touchdown pass. Now, granted, it's basically a handoff to Velus Jones there on the fly sweep, but again, I would highlight that it was turnover-free football. I think there were only, 2 sacks in the game. So some improvements from an offense that needed them. And now I think if Luke Getsy stands up there this week and tells you that there's progress being made, you can look back and you say, okay, I can buy into what the offensive coordinator is telling me. Last week, it looked like Luke Getsy, and it sounded like Terry Shea when he talked about tremendous progress that was being made. You saw progress this week.
You did, Brad, and I think when you look at the passer rating, 118.8, that is a significant number and improvement. It will be overstated and exaggerated by Thursday's kickoff for sure locally because everybody is desperate to see the kind of growth that we saw yesterday. Question is, you mentioned Luke Getsy. He did see progress. He did announce it publicly that there was signs of growth and he didn't have such a bad month. How did Getsy help Fields yesterday, in your mind, you know, build on some completions, not get discouraged, and call a game that was maybe more conducive for what we saw?
Well, I don't know that there were a ton of differences in what they had been doing. They perhaps were a little bit more aggressive on first down because we talked about that as well last week about how brutal the Bears have been on third down, right, through the first 4 weeks of the season. And when you can't sustain drives or get explosive plays, it's going to be very difficult to score points. They weren't great on third down yesterday. They were 4 for 10, certainly aided themselves by picking up a fourth down along the way as well. But I was talking to Eric Kendricks, the Vikings linebacker, after the game yesterday, and I've chatted with him before, and I went back to him because he's a pretty sharp guy, and so you can get something interesting from him, or he'll have an interesting take on things. And I kind of asked him about the Bears offense, and he thought that deep shot late in the second quarter to Darnell Mooney for 39 yards really kind of woke the Bears up, and then the Vikings were kind of challenged from there. And the one thing he said that kind of stuck out was that the Bears had so many different looks that it was tough for Minnesota to adjust from there. That once the Bears got a little momentum, they were kind of presenting so much stuff to the Vikings that it gave Minnesota some issues. So I think that's probably a credit to Getsy as well.
This segment with Brad Biggs is brought to you by global biotech company Horizon Therapeutics, where science and compassion work together to transform lives. Brad, the Bears did great, and they came back and they got the 19 straight points, and then they allowed what was one of the worst drives of the year. They allowed a team to just march down 75 yards, take 7 minutes, basically finish the game, and I believe there were 5 third down conversions, and goodness gracious, the third downs were atrocious in terms of by the end of the game, the Vikings were calling their shots on third down pretty much the entire game.
Yeah, that was really something. The Vikings' dominance on third down there. The Vikings converted 12 of 15 third down attempts yesterday. That's 80%. I plugged that into Pro Football Reference. A Bears defense has never previously allowed the opponent to convert 80% of third downs before, right? So that's a franchise low there in terms of being able to get off the field. And the Bears are now at the point, guys, and that it's been a little bit of an issue for them. Opponents are converting third downs at a greater than 50% clip against them now. And what was the common theme to open the game? Minnesota was barely facing third down, but when it did, it was all third and manageable, third and short. And there at the end, most of that stuff is third and really manageable. So the Vikings were, they had a good down and distance, and they had Cousins there, and the Bears were obviously very concerned about Minnesota's skill position players hitting them for the big play, and they were able to reduce that and prevent a shot over the top. But my goodness, the open windows that Cousins had was insane. You look at the NFL's next-gen stats, guys, and Kirk Cousins had 41 pass attempts yesterday. By next-gen's evaluation, none of them were into a tight window. That's the most pass attempts without a single tight window throw since next-gen began tracking this stuff in 2016.
Oh, yeah. Doors were wide open for everything, opportunity, and easy to throw, pitch and catch. It was 17 straight completions, and he was barely phased. But, Brad, let's go to the end of the game. So, Ihmir Smith-Marsette, I give him credit for accepting responsibility post-game, but that was a play that never should have happened. He turned inside. He should have gone out of bounds. What do you think the Bears will do, if anything, to respond to this? I know he's playing only because they don't have any other options, but how will they handle his how tenuous is his roster spot?
I don't know that the guy loses his job here on account of this. If Byron Pringle was healthy, maybe he's not out there. And, what was interesting is he was getting more playing time at the end than Equanimeous St. Brown. I don't know if St. Brown was dinged up a little or there was a certain package or strategy involved with having Smith-Marsette on the field there. But he makes a really nice move to shake Cam Dantzler. I mean, that was a really high-level move. But then he's trying to play hero ball against his former team. I'm sure he's got buddies on defense for the Vikings, and it just was a lack of football IQ, awareness, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about a serious violation of the hits principle here to not get out of bounds, stop the clock with about 65 seconds left. The Bears would have been at about the Vikings 40 with one timeout remaining. And it was an unbelievable play by Dantzler, though. Like, he didn't knock the ball out. He just straight up, like, mugged him. Like, I'll take that. Thank you. And then Dantzler does the opposite of Smith-Marset. He starts running, and then he realizes where he's at in the game situation, and he gives himself up to ensure that he doesn't potentially fumble and give the ball back to the Bears.
Were you at all surprised by the 2-point conversion attempt by the Bears or the onside kick that followed?
No, the 2-point conversion didn't surprise me because that's a situation where you're trying to make it a field goal game at that point. And the surprise onside kick, I love it. You love to see aggressive play calling, and there's not much more that's aggressive than the onside kick attempt, which is, that's a brassy call when your defense has played to the level that the Bears has so far, right? And what they saw was a tendency for Minnesota to peel out of there a little bit quick to try to set up a return, and they nearly got it. Matt Adams, the linebacker, nearly recovered that ball there. So special teams takes a shot. The Bears haven't got a surprise onside kick, SOS, since 2015 up here when they played the game at TCF Bank Stadium on the Gophers campus. And John Fox had Robbie Gould start the second half of the game with one of those. The Bears were able to fall on it. So it's been 7 years since they picked one of those up. But special teams tries, doesn't get it done there. And what do then? They get a blocked field goal. And so basically the offense takes over in almost the same spot it would have had they recovered the onside kick attempt. So that special teams unit, I had questions about it at the beginning of the season, wondered with so many young players what this was going to look like. Are we going to be seeing a lot of mistakes and mistakes that can swing football games? And so far, that unit's been pretty good.
All right, Brad. So Velus Jones called his shot. He said he was going to score, and he scored a touchdown. It was a smart play because it gave Justin Fields a little bit of confidence. Got a touchdown pass, good for the numbers as well. He played 3 offensive snaps, Velus Jones. And you see Pettis on the field for 30. You see Smith-Marset on the field. What are we waiting for? What are they waiting for in terms of using Velus Jones in the offense? Could it be that complicated?
Again, I'll go back to the fact that guy missed a ton of time. He didn't just miss the first 3 games of the season. He missed most of preseason and the second half of training camp. Like, he was on the sideline a lot. And that's missing an awful lot of time. So you're talking about where the rhythm and timing of this offense has been so poor, right? You're talking about what have they not been executing offensively? Well, everything's been out of rhythm and the timing's been off. So if that's been a problem, you're talking about taking a guy who's missed a ton of practice, okay, and is a rookie and doesn't have a lot of reps with the quarterback, and plugging him in there. I think you're asking for, more rhythm and timing problems if you do that. So you need to find little packages, small things that he can do, try to build off it from one week to the next. Had they mounted a lead or had a different game situation, is there more stuff in the playbook that Getsy might have gotten to with Velus Jones? I think that's possible. But I don't think you can, overlook the time that this guy missed with a hamstring injury that took a while to heal, that he then had a setback with, and now he's finally going, and hopefully he can remain healthy.
I was a little surprised to see the Bears as underdog against Washington. You tweeted out the 1-point line. Were you surprised by that?
A little bit. Our friend Joe Fortenbaugh, kind enough to deliver that information to me every Sunday late afternoon when they open the lines at Westgate Superbook, and I think Carson Wentz, we all know what he is, where the weaknesses are there, but they can throw the ball down the field, and he's got targets on the outside, and so I think that that probably is their ability to push the ball down the field. I mean, what Wentz throw for, like about 350 yesterday? I haven't looked at the stats from that game. I just know that they were chucking it pretty good. So that's probably a factor when looking at it and considering. I mean, guys, the Bears didn't do much to defend the pass yesterday, so I would imagine that's a big factor in an opening line that could certainly move before kickoff Thursday night. And I know America is hoping that Al Michaels has a better game to call Thursday night than he did a week ago. Holy smokes.
No doubt about it. And what may affect that line is the availability of Jalen Johnson. He now has missed more games than he's played in this year. And Jalen Jones stepped up yesterday, had 11 tackles. That's not necessarily a good thing, especially when you have 3 of your top 4 tacklers in the secondary, Brad. What's the latest with Jalen Johnson, and how much of yesterday's decision, because he worked out before the game and he looked like he could move, but they also have a game on Thursday, how much did that factor into the decision?
Yeah, I don't know that I would classify what he did yesterday, but pregame as a workout. I mean, he was out there moving around a little. And I think that has a lot to do with it, right? Now, while he's missed 3 games, the important thing to note here with Jalen Johnson is he was injured just a couple days before that Week 3 game, okay? So it's not like that was a full week that he was out, and it happened in practice, and they certainly don't want this to be a lingering thing like the Velus Jones hamstring was, so you want to get that right with your best cornerback, who was dynamic in the first 2 games, was playing fantastic football. So maybe you're hoping you can get him back this week. The Bears are actually going to hold a practice Wednesday, guys, and a lot of times teams basically do straight walkthroughs when they go from Sunday to Thursday with that quick turnaround to play. They want to be out there and get some fast movement going on Wednesday. It'll be a shorter practice. So potentially if that's something that Jalen can participate in, maybe he's out there and they could use him to help defend against Terry McLaurin and some of the guys that the Commanders have. As far as Jalen Jones, yeah, I mean, he was wearing number 31 yesterday. It might as well have been like a giant red X where Kirk Cousins could know where he is at all times. You're going to get that when you've got an untested rookie out there on the field going against a veteran quarterback with some savvy wide receivers. And the thing I like about Jalen Jones, when I talked to him yesterday after the game, he's like, yeah, I really want to get to the film to see some of these things because I know I can learn from this. And then he started rattling off some of the mistakes that he thought he had made right there before he looks at the film. And so I think, you know, when you've got a young player who has the awareness of specifically what went wrong and how he can go about correcting it, you know, that's the first step. Now he's got to be able to get better at it. But he's a young guy with some talent, and he's getting some experience here. So we'll see how he can respond in the event that he's needed later in the season or when they go to evaluate him in the offseason, because they still have a need, I think, to develop some talent and depth at that position.
Great stuff, Big Z. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad.
Have a great day, guys.